Hi everyone, this is Ravenswood on the Ravenswood podcast. We're very excited to bring this podcast episode to you. We've got Ben Ainsworth and Charlotte Ainsworth with us today, just to give you a bit of a backdrop on Ben and Charlotte and who they are. So Ben is the father of Charlotte Ainsworth, and Charlotte joined us a couple of years ago, and we'll get into it in a few minutes' time. She first joined us for our objective testing. I think it was just over 2 years ago. But we'll say hello to Ben and Charlotte. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you, Ray?
Yeah, very well, mate. Charlotte, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. How about yourself?
Very good, thank you. Now, Ben, you first discovered Euro football start, I think it was just over 2 years ago. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And what was it? How did you discover us and how did you find us?
It was just come up on my feed on Facebook, and I had a look at it, and it caught my eye. And then, I thought it was something I wanted to look at for my daughter. At that point in time, we were trying a few different things with her, as well as her football with her club and her academy. And I thought it might be something different to sort of go into. So, yeah.
Brilliant. So you joined us, Charlotte, for our objective testing. Have you ever done a test like it before?
No, it was very different, but I liked it because it gave me a challenge because I've never done anything like that before. Very
good. Now, I think one of the big things that impressed me and the coaches, for anyone who hasn't seen our objective test, and one of the tests is a simple test. It's called the Neymar test, but it's a juggling test. And the reason why the juggling test is so important for football, to test you physically and technically, but also checks your spatial awareness. When we first seen Charlotte, we seen her nail 50 juggles in one go. Now, on our test, the maximum score you can get is 50. And Charlotte, you got 50 straight away. So that's obviously something that you've practiced a lot.
Yeah, at home all the time and at training.
Very good. Now, the reason why it's so important in the objective testing is juggling as well, because it actually shows us that players have actually practiced a lot outside of club, because you can't just juggle 50 balls without practice, and it shows you that right mindset and mentality. So we'll roll back to when Charlotte was born, Ben, and obviously we know, and I know your background is Australia.
Yep.
But Charlotte's mum, and we're noticing a Liverpool jersey on Charlotte. Charlotte's mum's originally from Liverpool in the UK.
Yeah, she's from Birkenhead. She was born in Birkenhead. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And Charlotte was born in what year?
2011.
2011. And was the plan she was going to be a football player, or if not, what was it?
No, it wasn't originally. We were originally from Melbourne. We moved to Brisbane 5 years ago, but I was always involved in football. I played, I coached a lot. And when Charlotte was born, she was brought along to the games that I was coaching, and Nikki came and watched me coach. And then when she got a little bit older, she came along and helped me collect balls and things at training when my team was training and all that. And then later on, she started kicking the ball around in the garden when she was like, I suppose 4 or 5 years old. And when we moved from Melbourne to Queensland, she was in grade 1, and we took her down to a school function. It was a Grasshoppers soccer program they had on a Saturday morning, and she, to be honest, the first 2 sessions she absolutely hated it. But we'd paid the money for it, so we said, look, you just got to
stick it out.
Yeah, got to stick it out for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and the rest is sort of history after that. But
so obviously one of the big things that I talk about when we go on tour around the globe is whether talent is born or it's made. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big advocate through research and a project that I worked on in the Premier League, where we've spent to date £1.6 billion in England in the Premier League, whether talent is born or it's made. So when Charlotte was 4 and 5 and she first kicked a ball, was she an absolute worldie at the age of 4 and 5, or was she just the same as every other girl?
She had you could see that she was athletically, she was like she was able to run and kick the ball in the general direction when she was trying to dribble, but she was definitely not born with the talent, the special talent or the skill set that she has now. Yeah.
So it's definitely talent is definitely made. So it's all the hard work and effort that Charlotte's put in.
Yeah, it is. And the funny thing about it was we took her down to watch a friend play a couple of years later, and we got her down to Springfield United Football Club, and the TD at the time was a guy called Mark Elric, and he was a ex-international player for New Zealand and worked for Sky Sports in New Zealand as well, and just invited Charlotte down to a training and said, "Oh, would you like?" This was halfway through the season. Said, "Oh, would you like to come down? You've got some good coordination there with the ball and all this." And she'd never played at a club before, so anyway, she ended up coming down on the Monday night, and there was one spot in the team. So then they signed her up, and she played in a boys' team. And then a week later, Dad was coaching the team, and that's sort of where it all started really for her. I coached her the first couple of years, and then I passed her on to other people. So
yeah, so it's really interesting that you've noted, and that's one of the big things we are advocates of is players in general playing up age groups, but more so with the girls as well as playing in with the boys.
Yeah.
To get that greater physical challenge, which in turn actually benefits the technical challenge.
Yeah.
One of the big things that we're up against in Australia is obviously they have the age relative effect. They don't allow players to play up. Mm-hmm. You've got to get a letter from the king pretty much to be able to play up. Yeah. And then also for girls to be able to stay involved in boys football, which is so paramount for their development. It's important for them to play in with girls their own age, but also if they're not getting a challenge, they need to be challenged. At what age did Charlotte get to when you thought, actually, she's actually probably above average for her age and she's really starting to show a little bit of potential? Probably
when she was in her second season and that would have been when she was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Because there was also another guy quite famous, Alex Smith. He was at the club when he coached Scotland and also coached St Mirren back in the Scottish Premier League, and he said to me, "Ben, she's got the attributes. Like I can tell now that she's going to be a really good footballer. Whether she makes it all the way, that's completely up to her and how she develops over the next 7 or 8 years." But he said straight away that he said keep her in the game. She's got good balance on both feet at that age. Even though obviously at 7, 8 years old, you've obviously just at the beginning part of your journey.
Still got a lot to go.
Still got a lot to go, but the coordination and the balance was there, and you could see that. Or Alex said he could see that she'd definitely be able to develop into a decent sort of footballer if she's led on the right pathway and being coached by the right people. Yeah.
A question for you, Charlotte. How old were you when you really started to really enjoy football and you thought, I'd like to do this as a job?
Probably when I was 8, because I did one whole full season. I absolutely enjoyed it, playing with my friends and having my dad as a coach. It was really fun.
So it's just good, just spending time with dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in regards to playing with boys and playing with girls, is there one in particular you like to play with or against?
I like playing with boys way more and playing against boys way more because it's more challenging. It's the girls sometimes can be a lot easier, and you have to be mentally strong with the boys, and it's way harder physically, mentally, and it's just way more fun as well because it's intense and you don't get bored and winning games 10-0 because it's actually a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, obviously, as you know, I've got 2 girls and Liv's a tennis player, and watching her at the age of 8, 9 and 10, she was identified at state and national level, and she's playing against boys. I used to love it, but also there was always occasions where certain things were going on the tennis court. You weren't overly happy as a dad, but I knew I had to just stand back and just let her try and deal with it herself. That must be hard for you, Ben, over the years, watching it against boys and seeing tackles getting thrown in. And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I suppose in the early years when I was coaching her, I always loved football, playing it, coaching it. And I got her into it because I thought it would be a really good sport to get a female into. Obviously at the time there wasn't a lot of girls teams, so you had to put her into a boys team, and that was fine. But yeah, when I stepped away from the coaching her, which was after the first couple of seasons, I knew that she had the ability. So we pushed her on into more of I don't like saying this word too much, but the elite pathway, a higher level than what she was playing in grassroots.
Yeah.
So I stood back, but I was some of the coaches that you get sometimes. You think you can have input into doing things better, or or that. But you've just got to sort of try and just sort of bite your tongue. Let
trust
that
in the process.
trust the coach knows what they're doing, and they've got their own I suppose perspective on how they want to improve the player, the team, that sort of thing. So that's always hard when you're a dad and that. But getting back to your question about physicality and that, she was always an aggressive. I suppose I was an aggressive player on the field, so maybe it's in the genes or whatever. But she was always used to some of the parents on the opposition teams when she was in her first couple of years. Oh, that girl's a bit too rough, for the boys, knocking them over and all that sort of stuff. But she was always like that. She's always been physical and that. So I haven't really worried too much about her getting knocked around or whatever. She's always got knocked over and got back up. We did work a lot with her on resilience in the early days because, she might get knocked over and there might be a few tears and whatever, but we just said to her, try and keep those emotions in check if you can, because it's sometimes can show a weakness.
Yeah.
If you want to have a cry, maybe in the car or something or that's fine, but to get it out. But we always tried to help her that way. It's always been a work in progress sort of thing. She's fine with it now. But it's just one of those things with girls playing in boys competitions. You just got to try and not let that sort of affect you. So
I think it's definitely a testament to Charlotte working through those scenarios, and it's helped her strengthen as a player both on and off the park.
Yeah,
and especially when it comes to them playing against other girls, as she mentioned before, it becomes a little bit easier for her.
I think when you get to the higher level too, that she's sort of getting to now and striving towards, there are a lot of mental challenges that you need to go through, with background noise and that, which we've been obviously working through as well, because the higher you go, the more competitive other players get with you as well, whether it's female or male, and whether it's in that elite environment, whether it's school football, whether it's representative football. It's just one of these things. I think the strongest thing maybe the hardest thing now moving forward is the mental part of the game, because she's obviously she still needs a lot to learn and what have you with her game, whether it's tactically, whether it's technically, but I think she's on the right pathway with that part of her game. It's just the mental side of things, I think, is the next thing that we've got to sort of gauge with her. Yeah,
it's a real hard one that you just mentioned before, and we'll finish off on this before we go to our first ad break, but it's around having the trust and the level of trust in certain coaches and clubs that you're going to let Charlotte play and do a football. And it was one of the areas that I discovered over the years, even though I've got no background in tennis, but from a coaching point of view, I knew my eldest daughter sometimes wasn't getting the right training. I used to look at things very analytically. So I used to go, okay, she's training 5 times a week in tennis. 50% of your points in tennis are serving, but she wasn't practicing serves at all. So I'd challenge these so-called top-level, state-level coaches, and I'm like, why isn't she practicing serves? And they'd literally say, well, with all due respect, the tennis coach, leave it with us. But I would pull her constantly from different coaches until I found that right fit. Now, obviously, roll on a couple of years later, and Charlotte's done the objective testing. And I remember when I first met you, and we get this a lot with families, they're not quite believing in what we're doing and the offer that we give players and families, because it is free. You can win a free trip of a lifetime to Europe. That's one of the elements of Euro Football Star, but also the professional player pathway, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But Charlotte, you done your objective testing. It didn't cost anything. And then you were actually announced as one of the national winners. So what did you win? What was the prize you got?
A free trip to Europe, and you got to train with some top level clubs, and it was really fun and challenging to see where you're at compared to other players.
Yeah. Did you enjoy your time in England when you come with us in September?
Yes, it was very fun, and the opportunities were very good. Can you name maybe 2 or 3 of the clubs that you got to train with and experience your football with? Liverpool, Bolton Wanderers, and Man United.
Man United. Now, I know you've had a bit of an affinity with Liverpool and a little bit with Manchester United. And we've actually got a big game going on tonight. We've actually got Liverpool playing Manchester United. But who's your team? Who do you support?
Man United.
Man United, and she's sitting there with a Liverpool jersey on. I love it. Now, when you went to Liverpool and you had a training opportunity, and we got to give you an opportunity to train up with older age groups, how did you find that at Liverpool?
It was a bit nervous at the start, but they were very welcoming and nice, and it was challenging, but then it was like also not easy, but like easy to settle in and like play your natural game, and it was like really enjoyable, and it was like very different to how you play in Australia. Like normally lots of players like take lots of touches, but more you just got to pass and move there, and like the coaching's different, and I like the coaching way better over there. It's like very different.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was very fortunate to work on in my 20 years working in the pro game, was that the ball moves quicker than the player, and the quicker everyone realises that, the better. And that's one of the things I find in Australia. We focus a bit too much on playing out from the back, playing through the thirds, and it's very slow. And teams who play with a higher press, doesn't matter what age group, boys or girls, can squeeze and take that ball. So it was really pleasing for me. I was there with Dad and Mum, and we took you to Liverpool, and we got you that opportunity. And just to see you within 10 minutes, once you got rid of the nerves, you were actually bossing the training session. You were playing up with girls with 3-4 ages your senior.
Yeah.
And that's, again, one of the things that they like to do in England. They like to put players up an age or two to see how you test and how you fare. And I think you're more than coped. Now, we were also very fortunate, you touched on, we got to take you to Manchester United. What was that experience like?
It was a bit different to the Liverpool experience. Like, you had to kind of like show them that you were good enough, like the players, and then they would believe in you and start passing you the ball and stuff. But like I really enjoyed that because it was more of like a physical battle. I feel they were more physical, but it was really good too. It was like very different to Australia once again. Like they were way more intense and physical, and the sessions were way better than it is in Australia.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I remember that night when we took you to Manchester United, you actually had a bit of an injury issue, didn't you? What was it you had that night?
I fell over on my knee, and then my Osgood flared up a little bit.
So you've had issues, and this is a really important one to touch on, but you've had issues with Osgood Slatus, and it's a normal one that teenagers get as they go through the teenage years. I've seen my daughters go through it. I've seen so many of the male players. We've just done a small podcast, one of our mini ones, and we were talking about intolerance testing and DNA testing. Now we're currently just getting Charlotte put through that test as part of the professional player pathway, and we'll talk about this in our next side of this episode. And Charlotte's actually sponsored now by Euro Football Star for this. But imagine when we were in Europe, Widget, if you had that test done and you knew the certain foods and drinks that you shouldn't be eating, maybe you wouldn't have had that Osgood Slatus. But yeah, the good thing was we got you right, and we got you training again on the trip. And when it settled down and you finished off with a very, very successful trip. We're just going to go to our first ad break. So a big thank you to Ben and Charlotte for joining us. And we're going to be back in a couple of minutes. But just please watch our next advertisement.
Would you one day like to be a professional football player? Would you like to be part of our pro player pathway? What is the pro player pathway? It's an opportunity for all Australian football players aged between 10 and 23 who want to join us to become the next professional football player. On the pro player pathway, you get to join me and my team free of charge to an event all around Australia. When you join me, we're going to teach you the secrets of football in Europe. And one day, maybe, you could be gracing the Champions League final. Guys, over the next 12 months, we're going to be coming around all the major cities in Australia. And when we come around all the major cities, we're going to be running our free events everywhere we go. So guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's a free event. It's for boys and girls aged 10 to 23. And I'm going to teach you the secrets of becoming a top European football player. Oh, and one final thing. We're going to be giving away 20 scholarships to join me on this program of a lifetime.
Hi everyone, it's Raymond's Wood again at the Raymond's Wood podcast. We are pleased that we've got Ben and Charlotte with us. We're just on our first part of this episode, and we're just going to carry on where we left off. Now, we spoke about Charlotte getting an opportunity. She won a trip of a lifetime. She'd done the objective testing with Euro Football Star, which is all completely free. How was your experience, Ben, as a parent? One, with the objective testing and the results that you got back for Charlotte, but also the fact that she won this trip of a lifetime. What was it like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the actual objective testing was so different to anything that I'd experienced. Obviously, you've gone to academies, you've gone to, holiday camps, seen what you do at Clubland, and obviously we're at the football company as well, so you're exposed to a lot of really good football experiences. But this was something totally left of field. Yes, it was all relatable to what we'd been doing, but it was just able to test Charlotte and see where she's at with her skills up against other players as well, boys, girls, and just to see where she's at, I suppose, against everyone else in the state, because obviously you guys go to a lot of places to do your testing, and so that was that was the first thing. But second thing, it was just amazing to get the feedback via a document saying of the areas of how she scored, what she needed to improve on, what she did well, what she doesn't need to improve on, just to maintain that level, and then to find out that she'd won a free trip to Europe. I couldn't believe it, to be honest, because it's like we're just come out of COVID. It's not cheap to get to the UK, and then obviously all that was included, going and watching some Premier League games, training with high quality clubs, and all the other things that we did as well. It's just unbelievable.
Enjoyable opportunity for both of you.
Oh yeah, of course you can't sort of knock something back like that.
Yeah.
Because at the time, Nikki and I were just, one of us was going to go with Charlotte, but then we're like, it's a great opportunity to go, so the whole family went, so it was great.
That's amazing.
And able to catch up with some family over in Birkenhead as well, so that was.
And it also opens up different pathways.
For you, it is. Yeah, it's very important that we can, and Charlotte's just touched on that's a great one, is opening up them different pathways for you, because I think it's important to see what pathways you've got in Australia, but also to see what you've got further afield. Now, we did touch on a little bit, and you just mentioned, and it's one of the big things that we like to really focus on and reiterate, is that we are not direct competition to clubs. We're not direct competition to other private academies. We're very fortunate that we've got some really good private academies here in Brisbane. And obviously Charlotte's been very fortunate to be with one called the Football Company. Of the guys we know there really well, Jake Godship and TK Tommy. So how long Charlotte been at the Football Company for?
3 years. 3 years, I believe, yep. And prior to that, she was with Tommy for another 2 years before that. So she's been with them for quite a while now.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we do at Euro Football Store. We've got our two pillars to the business. One is the objective testing, which gives you a football feedback sheet, which tells you your strengths and your weaknesses, and it gives you that opportunity to travel to Europe to allow you to touch and feel and taste it. But our big area is, and our other pillar is that professional player pathway. And what we do, and you guys have been privy to over the past couple of years since you joined us with that program, is it's sort of like what we call the icing on the cake. It's the top level. And a lot of people have seen that recently in the past 6 to 12 months. What the job title that I've got at Euro Football Star is the Football Architect. And the reason why I called myself that and the business name that is because we see ourselves as the architect, because a lot of people don't know how many hours a week you should be doing, what should be included in them hours. Should you be at private academies? Should you be at clubs? Should you play with boys if you're a girl? If you're a boy, should you play up age groups? So we've invited Charlotte onto the professional player pathway. She originally did get a part scholarship, and we've recently just announced that we've fully sponsored the remainder of that package because of the hard work and effort that Charlotte's done, that Ben's done, and also her mum, Nikki. And we're very, very proud to announce that we're fully supporting Charlotte and the rest of her dream, and hopefully she can go on and make it. Now, in regards to the professional player pathway, again, we've said we really support and want players to be part of private academies. We want them to play club football and also to go out with mum and dad and still have that fun element as well and have a kick around. So you've been with the Football Company for 3 years, and I'm very fortunate that my youngest daughter's there as well. So I've seen some of the amazing work that the guys do there, and a lot of it is technical focused work. It's an indoor centre.
Yep.
Do you think Charlotte benefited from those advantages of just purely working on a very small side of the game and the technical aspects of the game?
Yeah, I believe so, because they do a lot of work in tight areas. The facility is a smaller facility, but they utilise the space really well. They do a lot of ABCs. So they're going through agility ladders, getting their feet moving quickly, going over hurdles, that sort of thing. That's sort of what they start in their first half of the session. They go into the technical side of things, how to manipulate the ball with all sort of areas of their feet. And they're getting into things like rondos and being able to move into tight areas, play the ball, move, which Charlotte alluded to in England, which was a lot of the style of play that they like. They don't like people carrying the ball for too long. They like the ball moving on quickly,
nice and fast.
Nice and fast. So I suppose that's really been something that's really taken her game to the next level, because I remember seeing a video just recently of TK when he's this first ever session that he did with Charlotte, which was at Perry Park. They used to do the sessions down there on the AstroTurf, and first session she was a bit bamboozled with all the skills that they were teaching on that night, and she came home a little bit deflated because it was like, I couldn't do that sort of thing. And this particular,
I think I actually did see that video. You did send me it,
I did.
When we were on the trip.
Yeah,
I remember looking at it, and it's quite funny watching it, and you go, for anyone who argues the point that talent's made or born, it's quite evident when you watch that video, and no disrespect to Charlotte, but it wasn't the best video.
No.
But it just shows you talent is actually made, and it's been...
and I suppose I sent that to TK a while back, and then obviously now he knows what she can do now, because he's worked with her for hours and hours and hours. It's just if you do keep doing things repetitively and you keep working hard at them, and the penny does drop, because it was about 2 years ago when it was a penny drop moment. It was just like, wow, you can see the progression.
Yeah.
It's hard for me, because I find it hard for me because I'm with her
all the time,
every session. Take her there, watch her, see all her games and all that, and then it's hard for me to be subjective to everything. But when there's, and I suppose that's what the pro player pathway is about too, that I can step away, and I can leave it in your hands, and that's where you'll probably touch on this soon, where part of the pro player pathway is getting your games analysed, and things that I think she's doing needs improvement on, not necessarily the right things that the professionals
can look
at and can tinker with, and just some of them, like you said, are 1%, some of them can be like the most basic thing that you haven't even thought about. That if you do that and you tweak that, it can make like maybe a
huge difference,
maybe a 30%, 40% difference in a game,
And that's one of the things that we do in that, and we'll touch on that in a minute in the match analysis, and some of those key objectives that we draw out as part of the professional player pathway is actually drawing out those fundamental basics that are missed in Australia and don't get taught to the players. Charlie, question for you. I don't think they'll mind me asking you. Football company, so you've been privy to work with a lot of good coaches there. I know all the coaches there, and they're all phenomenal. Who's your favourite coach from football company? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Tom Kenny.
Tom Kenny. And why was it Tom Kenny? What stands Tom out as probably one of the best coaches you've worked with?
Probably because I've worked with him for so long, and he's really took my game to the next level, because when I was younger, I was like really bad, and I always used to compare myself to other people. But then he helped me to become as good as they are, or even better. And he's just put so much time and effort into me, which has made me like even better. And like he never really doubted me when I was younger, like when I wasn't bad. And he like made my ball mastery and technically ability like very good.
That's amazing, and that's one of the big things that I was hoping to draw out from that question, and she gave me the answer, and we didn't prompt it on that, I promise. But in England, we discovered in the Premier League that children, boys and girls, especially in the younger age groups, really, really like consistency, and they like working with the same coach. And also what we discovered was, as coaches get to know like Charlotte, and they get to know her strengths and weaknesses, and they can work on them over 2, 3, 4 years over that period. And that's where development really accelerates. And that's one of the things that I think goes amiss here in clubland, is that players have to retrial every year, which still blows my mind why we have to do that. Coaches change every year. And some years players have a really good coach, then the next year they have a coach who they don't relate to. And then all of a sudden those players then unfortunately will drop out of football. So I was hoping we were going to get that answer from Charlotte, and it was really good to hear that like TK has got to know Charlotte over that 3-year period. And this then draws back into the objective testing, and then also the professional player pathway program. So Charlotte, like when we analyse one of your games and we draw out your objectives, it then allows us to build those fundamental areas. So within the professional player pathway, the match analysis, the individual match analysis, we look for 5 areas that we look on. And on those areas, we actually get the coaches in the UK who analyse your game to actually draw out your priority of order. So priority number 1 could be distribution and passing the ball. Priority number 2 could be scanning. But then once you've got that plan to follow, it's a game changer. And that's one of the big things that I think we spoke to Dad about, and yourself, was also knowing about how many hours you need to do each week and what those hours should look like. And I think that's the invaluable part. And this is why we say we are the football architects. We are the icing on the cake. We're not here to interfere with academies. We're not here to interfere with club football. We're here just to give the parents and the players that little bit of top-level advice and information so you know you're following it. So we're going to go to our next ad break in a minute, but before we do, just one final thing, Charlotte. So obviously you've been to Europe, you've had a taste of it. We've heard the rumour that you might be going back in January. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true.
Very good. And you're going to be working, is there any particular teams you're going to be working with when you're back there?
Liverpool.
Liverpool. So you're looking forward to that opportunity?
Yes, I'm very excited to go back there again because it was a great opportunity the first time.
Brilliant. And we'll touch on it in a minute. I don't think Ben and Nicky will mind us mentioning this on air, but Ben and Nicky have took the decision. They've had job opportunities to return back or to go and live in the UK, which is going to open up this opportunity for Charlotte to explore her club and where she's going to be in the future with her football. But you're going to now get to probably spend, I think, about 2 weeks at Liverpool. It's going to be cold. It's not going to be hot like it is here. How do you think you're going to cope going to England, Liverpool in January in the winter?
Well, because I'm from Melbourne, I'm already kind of used to the cold, and like my dad's bought me skins and stuff, so I should be fine. And I kind of like cold better than warm, to be honest.
That's good. Yeah, so it's better than dealing with a hot stinking day in Brisbane, 40 degrees like it is today.
And as long as you move, you're fine.
Yeah, that's it. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, we really support Charlotte and her mum and dad, and part of Euro Football Star, we're actually going to be supporting Charlotte along the way, and we're going to be going with her to Liverpool to see how she progresses and just to see how her training sessions go at Liverpool. So guys, we're going to go to our final ad break. A big thank you for joining us, and we're going to be back in a couple of minutes, but enjoy our next ad break.
Hey everyone, we are coming around every major city in Australia over the next 12 months. We have got free objective football testing going on, guys. It's for boys and girls aged 10 all the way through to 18 years of age. The objective testing is quite simple. We'll put you through our 6 tests and then give you your results, physical, technical and tactical. And also, we're going to choose 16 winners to join us on an all expenses paid trip to Europe in 2024 and also 2025. Guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's free to sign up. You get free objective testing and you'll get a free feedback, and maybe you'll be joining me at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2024 or 25.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood from the Raymond Wood podcast. We're just here with Ben and Charlotte, and we've got our final section to this episode. Now, we were just speaking to Charlotte about going to Liverpool in January, and she's going to get to train with Liverpool for 2 weeks. And we were just mentioning that Ben and Nicky, her mum and dad, have actually got opportunity to return and to go and live in the UK for work. Are you excited by this, Ben?
Yeah, excited, scared, all of the above. No, it's going to be a great opportunity for us all as a family. But, you know, the unknown is also something that I suppose change as well. People are always scared about change.
Yeah.
Change is, you know, some people think it's a bad thing, others a good thing, but I think it's an exciting new chapter, journey in our family's sort of,
Yeah.
future. So
Now, I did tell you and Charlotte about a year ago, and I remember having a conversation, because it's hard to believe, like you said as well, like coming out of COVID was hard, the fact that she won the trip of a lifetime. And then I promised you, if you were to come and join us on the programme and be part of the professional player pathway, we would open up opportunities for you and Charlotte, because we really believed in her. Yep. We knew she needed to tweak a few parts to a game, and we've done a lot of work with you guys, and I think it's a testament to the work and the opportunity that you've provided, Charlotte, over the years, because I think a lot of coaches get the accolades for the children, but I think, and I know from my own daughter, it's the mums and dads who are driving it, the ones who are driving them there every day, the ones who are spending the $3,000-4,000 a year in club fees. Yeah. Obviously for you now as a dad and Nikki as a mum, to be able to drop Charlotte into that environment where she's not only going to be able to test herself on a daily basis against the best players on the planet, because arguably the WSL is the best women's league now. How exciting is it for you, for Charlotte, to be in that environment to further develop a game?
I just think to be able to be in Europe, because I mean, to be honest, when we went over there in September, it was mind blowing how far ahead they are in the game, the way they think about the game, the way their sessions are articulated as well. It's just, if I see her in an environment like that for 3-4 year period before she went into senior football, whether it was here or whether it was there, I think she's just going to go from strength to strength in Europe. It's just to be in that environment for such a short period of time when we're over there. And it might sound silly to say this, but I thought she grew from her first session to her last session, because she did quite a few sessions there. Obviously Liverpool, Man United, Bolton, Tranmere, lots, and Fulham, those type of clubs. And I think she just relished the opportunity, and being able to be amongst high quality coaching. Yeah. And playing, when she got the opportunities at Man United and Liverpool, she was up against some world class players too for that age bracket. So
it was really exciting for me to sit back and being away, especially because of COVID and being out of the UK for quite a few years, but to remind myself again of the level of the coaching, but also the way the sessions are set up. And I remember watching you, Charlotte, and it's not just the challenge you get from the other players, but the way the coaches set up the environment to drive out certain objectives and certain goals. And I could see some of the sessions that you were working on. I remember one of the particular sessions where you were moving the ball in a certain direction and you had to follow the ball and follow the player. And it was really, really funny watching Charlotte that. I think you remember you made a couple of little simple mistakes in the first minute, but then once you got it, you were away. But I could see how much you were enjoying just a very simple drill, but it was challenger to think about the drill and thinking about which way you had to move the ball, but then also the space you had to attack. Do you remember that little session you done? Yeah. That was a pretty cold night that night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very cold.
Cold and windy.
But it was also easy to catch on, because if you weren't doing something right, the coaches would quickly tell you how you can fix and how you can make it better. Yeah,
and it was really good for me to say. I could see they were testing Charlotte, but I knew they were playing it up in 2-3 age groups up, and they wanted to see if she could cope. And we spoke about it before, that emotional intelligence, which is what we talk about in England. It's being able to take on that challenge, not get too upset, then maybe get in the car and have a cry, but they're looking to see if you can hold it together, if you can be strong and keep working with the process, because you're not going to learn everything straight away. And I think that's a testament to the work that you guys have done over the years, that Charlotte could have quite easily lost it, but she didn't. Yep. And I could see the coaches nodding and talking to each other, and I knew they really, really liked her. So it was pleasing for me to see. So January, we're going to be going to Liverpool. You're going to get to train with them for a couple of weeks. And then what's the plan? When are you going to head to the UK for your job and your work and stuff?
Probably June. We're thinking June, because that will tie in with the end of the school year in England, and obviously then we can find schools for our two kids, and obviously start work as well. And we just think that'll be better. Obviously, it'll time with the weather and stuff too, the warmer months, and we'll get acclimatised before we hit the full on the full on bad winter, rather than moving there in the middle of winter. But we just think it'll just be a more settled approach. Yes, it'll be middle of or end of semester 1 here and that, but we just think that's probably the best way.
Best way to attack it.
Best way to attack it, yeah.
So we roll on June, July time next year, Charlotte, and we'll say that you're going to be in the UK living, and obviously you've got opportunities from Liverpool, Manchester United. We also had a couple of other WSL giants reach out over Charlotte. Who would you choose and why if you got an opportunity to play for anyone?
Liverpool, because not only were they friendly and their facilities were very good, but also their coaching I felt was the best, because I experienced top level coaching with Man United and even Bolton and stuff, but I just felt their coaching and their sessions were set up way better, and their players were really welcoming, and they were really good high quality players, and it's easier to play with high quality players and coaches that actually help you.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good to hear, especially being a Liverpool fan. Not that we have a direct connection just solely with Liverpool. We, as you know, we work with clubs from the top level in the WSL and the Premier League all the way down to semi-professional clubs. It's always about a best fit for players and creating that opportunity for them. So, Charlotte, objective testing, winning the tour, going to the UK, experiencing it, doing a professional player pathway. For all those boys and girls who are maybe 8 and 9 and mums and dads are not sure which direction to go, would you recommend Euro Football Star?
Yes, I would definitely recommend it. It's been a great experience.
Very good. And Ben?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, this will go back to you directly, Ray, is that you do come across a lot of coaches and a lot of people that work with your daughter or son, but you have from day one have believed in her and given her opportunities, whether it's at objective testing, whether it's a private session, and then obviously she won the trip, and that was fantastic. But it's just been the constant communication with us as parents too, just checking in to see how we're going as a family, and checking on how Charlotte's progressing. Is she? You've always said to me that if it's becoming too easy for her in that environment, we need to change things, whether it's within that environment or whether it's taking her out of an environment.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've never had from anyone else. Obviously the current environment that you're in, they want to keep you in that environment because they want the best players or what have you in those environments. But you look beyond that. You're solely looking at Charlotte's personal development and what she needs, and that's what sets Euro Football Star apart from other organisations, I suppose, because sometimes you don't get that personalised sort of service, I suppose is the right word.
That's what we're looking to do, and it's quite interesting now. We're getting quite a big following, and admittedly we did post coming out of COVID. We get a lot of families and a lot of people online see our advertisements and they're like, no, this is not real. This is like some sort of scam. You're going to take 100 grand from us for doing it. And we get all these different comments. But the pleasing thing now is we get a lot of our parents who've worked with us like yourselves who are hopping online actually saying to people, no, this is actually like the real deal. Like you need to come out. And we done objective testing last weekend in Brisbane at QUT. We had our biggest turnout. The maximum we can have is 80. We had over 1,000 sign up for it. So we had to turn a lot of people away. Still on the day, we still ended up with just under 100 players turn up. And we decided we had to try and service everyone. So again, that objective testing, as you know, it's completely free of charge. And we've already selected winners from that, which we're going to announce in the next week or two on Christmas Eve. And we've got a meeting with everyone tonight. But now it's really pleasing for us to get a little bit of momentum going and people actually realise that Euro Football Star is the real deal. Our whole ethos is just to help players and help families. And we're not saying you need to leave Australia straight away, but there comes a time and point that if you want to develop as the best player, whether you're a boy or a girl, there's going to time and point where you need to be in the best leagues. And unfortunately, those best leagues aren't in Australia. Those best leagues are in Europe and in the UK, both in the men's and the women's game. and that's where you need to go. So, what's one of the big key things that you're looking forward to the most for Charlotte for potentially playing a football in Europe over the next couple of years?
I suppose it's just one thing I look for is just like the intellect with the coaches and that. Like, there's coaches over here that obviously there's some really good coaches, but it's more the explanations, which I was really impressed with when I went to Liverpool and Manchester United. They're delivering a session, and the objective is very clear, even if you're sitting on the sideline although I'm a coach as well. But just it's so clear to the players what has to be done. There's no sort of foggy moments where they're sort of like not sure what to do. And I think when the way they design their sessions too, the players get a lot out of it. Yeah. I know Charlotte got a lot out of all the sessions because some of the sessions she did, they started off at sort of like an entry sort of level, and then they progressed into the variations into different stages to get more outcomes out for the players.
Yeah, it's one of the big things that we focused on, and we spoke about it before, the EPPP project that we worked on in the Premier League, and they've spent £1.6 billion to date, was that they discovered the best way to tailor sessions is start off nice and easy for the warm-up, and then it progresses to the point where within the last 10 minutes of the session, players should be struggling, and it should be hard, and that's where the development happens. The beauty of that then was players like maybe, let's say, Charlotte's in the team and she's still finding it relatively easy. You would give her a mark, and then once she struck out 3 marks in that period of time, she would then get asked to then play up an age group or train an age group for a couple of sessions a week just to then re-challenge her, because what we don't want is for it to be constantly too easy, and we touched on that before, that unfortunately in Australia it is too easy sometimes, and the whole rules around training up and playing up age groups or girls playing in boys is just not overly done, and it's not endorsed because they've got a belief in a system that you need to do it another way. Mm-hmm. And you've been privy to now, that system doesn't work at all.
No.
One of the big frustrating things for families and for you with Charlotte as well, and it frustrates me, is that the better you get in Australia, it costs you more money.
Yeah.
And especially if you're in the MPL system and the SAP system, you can pay anything up in the region of $3,000 to $4,000. Where, with all due respect, but if you're playing community football, you're paying $400 or $500. So England, if you go and sign for Liverpool or Manchester United, what's it going to cost you to play for them?
Not sure.
It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Because the big thing in the UK, even at clubland, like I've got a nephew who plays football and he plays just a little bit above that community level. But there, the fees are like maybe £80 a year, which is maybe a couple of $100. But once you're in that gifted and talented pool and you're in that elite level, when you're at clubs like Liverpool, Manchester United, once you're in that system, it's free. Your kit's provided for you, it's free, and everything's paid for. And I think that's a couple of key takeaways that I've taken coming from the UK and living here now for 17 years on and off, is that we've got to come up with a way on how we can make it free for the elite and the talented and gifted. And even at the very bottom level, it becomes as cheap as possible to enter the game and to have that first experience, like we spoke about with Charlotte before when she first done, what was the name, Grasshoppers?
Yeah,
I've seen Grasshoppers a little bit as well. And it's got to be as cheap as possible. And I think there's some of the key things that we've got to learn to try and improve. I think they put it in the too hard basket in Australia, and they're like, it's too hard to work out. Again, from anyone in the federation or the state football is listening in and watching the podcast, we've actually got a formula to do this, so you can do it for free. They just need to reach out and speak with us, and we'll happily share it for free and integrate all of our programs for free into the curriculum, because we're only here for one reason, and I think you've been privy to for the last 2 years. It's about Charlotte, it's about the players, and about kicking on. We're not interested in becoming agents and taking money at the back end. It's all about just getting that opportunity for the players and helping them develop, because eventually, Charlotte goes on and she's successful in England. The next question is, are you going to be a Matilda, or are you going to play for England, or you're not sure?
Not sure. Would everyone ask me first?
What one are you thinking right now? So if you could say you could play for Australia or for England, who would you play for?
Probably England, because it's like they're better than like the Matildas, because like they win more things.
Okay, that's good. So you want to be in that more challenging environment. That's amazing. So a big thank you from me at the Raymond's Wood podcast. We're going to finish off there, and we wish you luck with your football, Charlie. And I'll be obviously with you in January. I'm so excited to see you running around when it's -4 and it's snowing. That's going to be a challenge in itself. And we know when we spent our time in Liverpool, they're doing amazing hot chocolate. So we'll hopefully
definitely need a few of those to warm us up.
And will you guys hopefully in the next year or two, once Charlotte keeps kicking on with the football, you come and join us again, and we'll maybe come and do a podcast from Liverpool or Manchester.
Sure.
Brilliant. A big thank you from everyone listening in to the Raymond Wood podcast. We hope all mums and dads and players enjoyed that one to show talent definitely is made, it's not born. And for anyone out there who's aspiring to play at the top level, it is possible. It's just about hard work, consistency, and having a good support network of a mum, dad or family members who are willing to support you. So a big thank you from me, Euro football star, and the Rainbow podcast, and we'll be back in the next week or so with our next episode. Namaste and peace.